Let's call to order our Sherburne County Board meeting of November 2nd to order. Please rise for a moment of silence and the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this moment, I'd be looking for an approval of our regular meeting agenda, if there are no additions or subtractions. Yes.
Thank you, Chair Danielewski, members of the Commission. With the Commission's permission, under consent agenda item 2.3, prosecution agreements. In your packet is a prosecution agreement with Palmer. With permission of the board, we'd also like to add Big Lake and Baldwin. We have agreements signed by the townships for your approval today.
All right. Nothing more? All right, with those changes of adding Big Lake Township and Baldwin Township to 2.3 on our agenda, I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval with those
Motion
changes.
made by Commissioner Dolan,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Foby. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Moving on to our consent agenda. I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with those changes.
I so move.
Motion made by Commissioner Brandt,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Dolan. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Moving on to announcements. Mr. Meslet, what do we have for announcements?
Thank you, Chair Danielewski. Just a couple of things for you and the board. First of all, I've handed out an article that was in the Star Tribune on North Star, since you'll be having a discussion at workshop. It was quite timely. Second of all, in your board packet, we do have a letter from the Initiative Foundation as well as extension information, which was requested by the board. I would just note with respect to extension that the requested position is still in the proposed budget. And so as of this time will be included in the truth and taxation materials that you'll be receiving soon. Next, Lynn did send a letter to the board regarding Board of Adjustment, and she did ask whether the board would be interested in doing interviews again like you did last year, or if you want staff to conduct those interviews. Just looking for a pulse of the board right now, whether you want us to reconstitute the interview panel or go back to previous efforts, which was a staff-led interview.
Any thoughts on that? Do we want to discuss it at workshop? Or give direction now?
We have time, so we could put it on the end of November workshop if you want to discuss more your thoughts on that. There's 2 vacancies, so. Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah, okay.
Just a note that staff is in the process of updating draft legislative priorities. I'll send the board out last year's priorities so you can look at them as well. And working with our lobbyists to schedule our legislative breakfast. The past couple of years, it's been in early January initially. Lockridge Grindle thinks that's fine, just after we have to get the date scheduled and get it on people's calendars. So unless the board feels strongly one way or the other, I thought what I'd do is get out our priority list and you can start working on that. And then just a couple notes on calendar. We do have a trip scheduled for the chair and Commissioner Foby for November 30th and December 1st to Washington, D.C. to work on our federal requests for supporting the Zimmerman overpass and possibly parks acquisition funding. Truth and Taxation is scheduled for the 2nd of December, so I have you folks coming back in time for that. And then a note that AMC is having its annual conference December 6th through 8th. Just so the board is aware, we do have a couple of staff members, Brian and Amanda, who will be part of a panel presentation by Google on some of their efforts with AMC to create some technology improvements in the Health and Human Services area. So they'll be on a panel, and I'll get you the specific date and time for that panel. And then finally, because of that, the board meeting is scheduled for December 9th, and then following at the end of the month on December 21st. So we're getting our end of year and beginning of year a task list together, and we'll be sharing that with you. Just one note, there is, because it's every fourth year, we do have one other ministerial task, and that is you have to set the minimum salaries for the elected officers for the county in addition to salaries for next year. So that will be something you'll have to do in December.
All right, anything else? Nope. All right, thank you for those updates. Next on our agenda, we will be having a public hearing to discuss the tax forfeited parcel 64870105, Lot 1, Block 1 of the River Bend Second Edition, located in the city of Becker. Diane?
Keisha, can you roll or change the slides to the next one? Good morning, Commissioners, Madam
Good
Chair.
morning.
Thank you. Yes, what we are looking for today is to conduct the public hearing regarding the tax forfeited parcel, the one that you mentioned, Lot 1, Block 1, River Bend Second Edition. So this is for the purpose of classifying or reclassifying and sale of the tax forfeited land situated in the city of Becker. I have put together the information, set the background justification on there, and would you want to take public comment first, or for me to go through this? How would you like that?
How about we go through, get an understanding of
Sure.
everything before we do the public comment?
Okay.
And if there's any questions from the board?
Certainly. So attached is a map of the parcel in question. The outlying property surrounding that, Keisha, can you put that to the map, please? Thank you. So the property that is surrounding those square blocks in there, those are the units in there. That parcel had tax forfeited due to a homeowners association that was previously in place that had no longer was that was active and wasn't no longer benefiting those homeowners. So they got their own insurance to cover their parcels and their property and stuff that they own there. So there was no one that was cleaning the sidewalks, doing the mowing, or anything like that. So they were taking upon themselves to do all of that work. So we held a meeting back in April 14th of 2021 with the property owners and the city of Becker, and we discussed what had actually happened with this tax forfeited parcel. And this property was actually taxed when it was in the homeowner's name, homeowners association name. It was taxed elsewhere, meaning that a portion, like 1/28 of that, was taxed to each of the unit owners. And then they went through and did a Premier Bank did and with the city of Becker, they replatted this piece. And then the Premier Bank was no longer managing the homeowners association on there. So there were special assessments that were charged against it, and it's tax forfeited, and then the bank said they were no longer going to be paying any taxes on it, and so they just let it go, and it tax forfeited the state of Minnesota. So a notification was received in February of 2018 that the homeowners association had been involuntarily dissolved and that Premier Bank had no further relationship with the parcel or the association. Therefore, the parcel tax forfeited in 2020 with no homeowners association in place. So the county officers and the staff are following the proper timeline and statutes in the forfeiture process for notification and for publication. So that leaves us up to where we are here, because before I requested for publications and we did all the notices in the paper, et cetera, and the mailings. So after receiving testimony from the public, the board's decision today is to recommend one of the following three options. One is continue to do nothing and leave the situation as it is in tax forfeiture. Technically, the residents do not have access to their homes, and that's going to affect current and future real estate transactions. Two, should a homeowners association be created and recorded, then at that time, it could be requested that the state to place the parcel in the homeowners association as long as all the property owners agree. There are 9 property owners and 8 homeowners. And 3, or to convey a undivided 1/28 interest in Lot 1, Block 1, Riverbend Second Edition, to the adjoining property owners of the common area in the Riverbend plat for the lands to be used and maintained as common area, including the purpose of ingress, egress, electric and utility services. Then, this will then tax each of the property owners a 1/28 share, and then such conveyance will be subject to the statutory reservation of rights in mineral interest, which is a requirement of any parcel that tax forfeits with the state of Minnesota. That when we do the deed back, it has to be that the state's reserving the rights in minerals. So anybody have any other questions?
So Diane, for clarification on the map,
Yep,
basically the
it's the
blue
outline.
outlines are the properties, and
Yep.
everything around it in the open area is what we're referring to where they don't have access, and the rest of that is.
In that blue shaded with the outline blue area
Yes.
that goes around the G, F, E, D, C, A, and B, those are the units, the
Those are
proposed
the
units for in
units.
there. Yep,
And everything else is the common land that is
Correct.
supposed to be held with the, association.
and currently, right now, there are just units built on G and F. Those are the only two that have homeowners,
Otherwise, the rest are still vacant.
are vacant.
Okay,
Yep,
yeah,
they're
I get-
vacant.
okay.
And actually where D is, that is just a temporary road that's in there. That is, eventually will be like a 4-unit
Okay,
piece in there too. So that's where the 1/28 comes in.
all right. Any questions for Diane before we open the public hearing? Okay, seeing none. So at this time then, I will open the public hearing at 9:12. Anybody wishing to address the board on this issue, please rise, go to the podium, state your name, and we'll hear testimony.
Madam Chair, I did receive a phone call this morning, if I could provide for public record.
Yes, please.
For the public hearing portion of it. So at 7:50 a.m. this morning on 11/2/2021, I received a phone call from Jeanette A. Charpentier, who lives at 11677 37th Avenue Southeast in Becker, Minnesota, in which she wanted to go on record that she's not in favor of the homeowners association and the fees that they will be imposing on her. She is on Social Security and does not have an extra $100 a month to spend on HOA fees. When she first purchased and moved in, she agreed to the homeowners association and paid into it for 3 months, and no one came to mow the lawn, or to clean the sidewalks. She was then told that they went bankrupt and there was no more homeowners association.
Okay. She does understand without that, though, that access to her property legally is challenging.
It is,
Okay,
unless there's a conveyance.
okay. All right. Any further questions? All right, we now have the public hearing open. Anybody wishing to speak, go to the podium, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Marie Flipson with the City of Becker, the Community Development Director for the city, so I'm here representing them. So we acknowledge at the city that there are a few different options on how to convey access to these properties. However, how this plat was established, the plat does require an HOA to be active in this association. So you can't see it with this map, but there are also common utilities that surround these properties, so between G, F, E. So part of that HOA is to also maintain those private utilities, private roadways, et cetera. So the city council back in, looking for a date here, back in July did pass a resolution that did recommend a condition of this transaction or sale be that it go to an HOA or an active HOA. So I'm just here to further reiterate the city council's request on that today. Happy to answer any questions. I'll still be here for the rest of the public hearing as well. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Good
my
morning.
name is Tamara Radence. I am a resident of the Riverbend Association. I wear a mask because I'm a nurse, and I would like to encourage everyone to continue to wear your masks in public places. Thank you. As I understand it, today's meeting, we're hoping to steer what happens towards the Riverbend community. And as you know, this started arising in March of this year. So in April, thank you Kathleen and Diane, they actually had a public meeting where we had a lot of input at that time. At that time, the residents overwhelmingly appeared to be not in support of an HOA because we believed that we could have that 1/28 parceling situation. However, it has come to our attention that the city of Becker, who has jurisdiction for zoning of the Riverbend plat, had originally zoned the plat as a CIC development. That was never changed, even though the HOA was allowed to dissolve. So we didn't know that when we bought these properties. This was never explained to us. Our titles were clear. We paid our taxes. We did all the things we thought we were supposed to be doing. However, since then we've discovered this is not enough. The city of Becker has taken legal efforts to ensure that the Riverbend plat not be allowed to move forward on any resolution that does not include the restoration and implementation of an HOA. I have a copy of that ordinance. If anyone wants a copy, I can get that to you. I've brought it here today. Anyway, in no uncertain terms, they made it very clear that if there isn't a viable HOA, we will no longer have legal egress to our homes. We can't sell, we can't, this is impeding significantly our lives. So today, I respectfully request that the commission here please help the homeowners of Riverbend move forward with our lives without further delay. Please do not table this again. In order to be complicit with zoning ordinances with the city of Becker for Riverbend, my husband and I fully support the HOA. The HOA paperwork was, I believe, filed and is now viable for our property. It was, are you going to speak, Jethro? So he'll explain the HOA paperwork. He's in charge of that. That's it. Thank you for letting me speak, and also thank you for your civic service to your communities and your county. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person to speak? Good morning.
Morning. Good morning. My name is Jethro Carpenter, 1562 237th Avenue, St. Francis, Minnesota. So my role in this deal is I currently am looking to purchase the remaining property in the development. And so I also attended this April meeting that Kathleen and Diane put on. At that point in time, there's a lot of this isn't the only one, this type of project that we've worked in the past where there was a failing HOA because of economics. There's lots of stuff. This one is particularly complicated due to the fact that all the property around it is in tax forfeiture. And at the time when we met, it lends itself to, with not having an HOA, it lends itself to a lot of real problems, right? So if somebody owns, say like somebody owns one unit in the building and they decide that they want to put pink siding on without an HOA, there ain't anyone to stop it. Somebody's roof on the south side of the building, it gets more sun and the roofing goes bad. Well, the person on the north side, well, they don't want to pay for a new roof, and and then there's just obstacles, and somebody owns their property. They don't necessarily have to have homeowners insurance. It's not required to have insurance if you don't have a mortgage. No one's going to enforce it. So it's just vitally important, in my opinion, to have an established HOA. Now, Tamara brought up that at this initial meeting, it was Kathleen and Diane went there. It was pretty apparent that they were guiding them to the 1/28th, which I thought that I recommended not doing that just due to the fact it just lends itself to some severe problems. We currently have an active HOA set up that is viable by the Secretary of State and recorded with Sherburne County. So in essence, there's really not a lot of reasons why that it can't go in the HOA. We have a majority vote from the homeowners to establish an HOA. It'll be a little different this time than it was previously because they'll be able to govern themselves. They can set a board up. They can decide what they're going to include in the association dues. Jeanette, obviously on fixed income, everybody wants to be cognizant of that, right? You know, I mean, it has to work for everybody, but it's just very important that we have a established HOA set up because this deal will create a problem. The pipe main, I mean, it's private utilities, so the main water breaks in the middle of the street, that's a private street, who pays for it? I mean, there's just a whole lot of stuff that needs to be able to be addressed with an HOA. Other than that, it's pretty clean. We have an association set up, we're ready to go. Understand that there's some back taxes that have to be paid. At the meeting, it was brought up that it would be $1, they'll buy the property for $1. I don't know if that kind of changed. It definitely changed after the fact when it kind of was pushed not to go for the 1/28th interest. Actually, Kathleen and Diane said they're both going to kick the dollar in, but I won't hold them to that. So,
All right.
but anyways, that's it. We're just want to get it resolved. Get back on the tax roll. These people have lives that they need to be able to sell their properties, and honestly, they need to have access. This is a real problem, and it's been going on far too long, so we just respectfully appreciate you guys give us some direction, so however it is, we can move forward. Anything for me?
All right, not at this moment. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you, guys.
Next person? Good morning.
My name's Diane Robach. I live in E on the first square. So I don't know who we are that formed the association.
It would be 6 people that voted for it.
Okay. Well, I wasn't one of them. I reserved my right to come here today and talk to you guys. I don't agree that an association should be forced upon us. And the city did have a meeting without inviting us residents. I wanted you to know that. I don't know what to say about this. This is a mess. I'm not a legal attorney. I can't figure it out. But I would ask that we get some kind of decision today, because no matter what, I have to sell my house now. I bought my house under false pretense, and it doesn't seem like there's anything I can do about it because everybody's making decisions and I don't really have a say. So I was told there was an association when I bought my house. I consider that fraud because it went through my title company and it was clear, and it's not, because we're in this situation. I'm paying for something that I wasn't even there for. I bought my house in 2017. So I don't know what the answer is. I guess I'm just hoping that due diligence and justice preserves this.
All right, thank you, Diane. Anyone else wishing to speak at the public forum or the hearing? Good
My
morning.
name is Mark Redens. Tamara is my wife. I have been going through major health problems all year. I have pulmonary hypertension, AFib, and Crohn's disease. And when I got the AFib last winter and this spring, I am not able to climb stairs anymore or any physical work really. And me and my wife would like to move out. We started a new house after they come up with the before they come up with the regulations. So we have a new house waiting for me that's handicap accessible. And we would just like to move into some place where my wife doesn't have to worry about me all the time. And our new house has got all a walk-in shower and no stairs, and it's got all the stuff for a handicapped person. And we're almost done with the house right now, but if we would have known, you know, all this stuff was happening, we probably wouldn't even have started the house. But I'm just saying that, you know, we're put in a situation where, you know, we can't get into our house until this is solved, and this is very important to me. I'm totally disabled now. I can't work or anything. So any consideration you would give to us would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Second call, anybody wishing to speak? Third and final call, anybody wishing to speak? All right. Hearing and seeing no one, I will now close this public hearing at 9:26. Bring it back to the board table. So the association that they are referring to that has been developed now,
Yep. I was,
have all that
I received
information?
copies of all of that on Friday, late afternoon. I
Okay.
forwarded it on to our county attorney, Ms. Kathleen Haney, for her review, and she has reviewed it. She has a few comments and stuff about the homeowners association actually listing a parcel in there that doesn't belong to, belongs to the state of Minnesota right now, but that's another
That-
piece.
Can that be worked out? I'm assuming, is that something that can be,
Ms. Haney?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, presently, the title to the common area lies within the state of Minnesota.
okay,
When I had reviewed the documentation that was provided, it listed it as being underneath the homeowners association, and technically, they can't place it under the homeowners association because the title still lies with the state of Minnesota. And that's part of what the crux of the issue is today.
so is there a process that has to be followed to get that resolved with the state of Minnesota then?
Well, that's the reason why we're here today.
Okay.
The options that Diane set forth is, the first one is we could convey the interest back to the homeowners or the property owners. They then, in turn, if they seek to, could then transfer their interest to the homeowners association. Option two is we could convey to the homeowners association, but I always make the assumption that everybody's in agreement with that everybody's in accord with that. And there's some questions too. There's some legal questions that are still out there in my mind. For example, restrictive covenants are placed on the land when they did the development. When property goes tax forfeited, a lot of the liens or interests that lie with the land become forfeited as well. For example, if you have a piece of property that has a mortgage on it, if it goes tax forfeited, the mortgage is extinguished. So in my mind, there's also a question about whether or not those restrictive covenants are still valid. And I can tell you that there's no case law on this at all. So there's still some issues that are out there that would have to be worked out. The third issue, or third option that you have is, as Diane identified, is the county board could choose not to act at all. It's very difficult because what you want to do, from my perspective, what I would want to do is put everybody on equal footing and not have people forced into choices, but to have choices made by themselves, because this is an investment that they've made. And you can hear the two different perspectives on it. So I was very hopeful that everybody could work together to come to that resolution. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. I do know, though, that with Becker's Community Development Director speaking and looking at what this is, the only reason why that was approved through the city is because there was an HOA associated with it. Because this is not anything that a city would allow to develop in the way it's presented without it. So I understand that that creates issues then. That means that nothing will be able to happen. The city will not probably give permits to do things because these don't even qualify as developable lots under city standards. And the only reason why they're being developed is because it's an HOA. And HOAs, to me, need a lot of work because these are issues that happen with them when they don't go well. So it's very hard for us then to have to be put in the position, because I hear what everybody is saying. And I understand the one lady's comment, but without us moving forward and the idea that an HOA gets formed again is going to prevent her from doing anything with her property, even access it.
If I may, Madam Chair, if the county chooses to give an undivided interest in the property back to the homeowners, that means that they would have access to the property. So I want to make sure that that's clear, and if I wasn't, I apologize for that.
And I hear what you're saying, but the rest of the common ground is left with nobody in ownership of it, and there again, the city is not going to allow things to happen there under the current, and so these people will be not able to, maybe Marie could be better equipped to tell me what their constraints would be, but just because they have access, you give them 1/28th, and they get access, what's with the rest of the common ground that sits with an HOA?
It would be an undivided interest in all of the common ground.
Okay, so all the common ground will get an undivided interest, and then they have to figure out who's gonna mow what and what gets attached to their property?
They would have to work together to do that, yes.
Okay,
Which I believe currently that's what they're doing right now. So each has been mowing their own, taking care of their own refuge, taking care of their own plowing.
and then what happens, like when the water main breaks because it's a private road? They're all gonna get together and pay that cost? Okay, yeah, sorry.
Madam
Go
Chair?
ahead.
Yeah,
Commissioner-
Go ahead, Felix. Go ahead.
Okay, there's two fourplexes built there.
Yes,
We're dealing with the property that just surrounds these
Correct.
fourplexes. The fourplexes are separate PIDs, or is there 4 PIDs
There's
for each
4.
complex?
there's 4 separate parcels for each of those 4 units.
What kind of an agreement do they have on the parcels, on the houses that they have now for maintenance and repairs and care?
nothing.
And
Okay, what does this do to resolve that, which is a very large issue as well?
Yeah, that would, right now, they're taking care of their own, and they're purchasing their own insurance.
Okay, Commissioner Dolan and then Commissioner Bovee.
Madam Chair, Felix's point is one that I was going to bring up as well. I think we're oversimplifying how clean this might be, but to me, it sounds like, as much as there were a couple folks that spoke, we'll say, against an HOA, it doesn't sound like their objections to an HOA are insurmountable. It sounds like maybe they not quite fully understanding the benefits versus the costs and how that's going to be set up. And as much as I don't like kicking the can down the road and I don't want to not take action on this, it feels like giving the parties, 30 days, along with our county attorney to make sure that the HOA documents that they're presenting are what they're supposed to be before we convey anything or make any decisions would be the smart way to go. Obviously, our county attorney is not comfortable with the HOA docs that they have now, so I couldn't, in good faith, make a motion to convey that direction. I mean, Rayanne's right in saying that HOAs and all the CIC stuff that goes with developments like this, there's a reason there is. I mean, that's the way it needs to go for orderly development, without a doubt. We just gotta figure out a way to get all the parties to work together and come to a resolution there.
Commissioner Phobie?
I don't.
Okay, you're good. All right, Commissioner Smeezing?
I mean, we can move forward here today and ask for an HOA to be formed, and that would include the Lot 1, Block 1. But it, to me, clearly would not solve the problem that those homeowners have. I mean, so now you got access, but how do you sell a piece of property that is, has a separate PID but has adjoining walls with 3 other properties, and that would have to be resolved. And what we would deal with today would simply be Lot 1, Block 1.
Correct. Because that's a parcel that's in question that is tax forfeited to the state of Minnesota.
And can you identify that on the map?
Yeah.
It is the outlying area.
So can you go to the map and, I'm sorry, I'm really
it's-
trying to wrap my head around
Yeah,
all this.
it's all that open
Everything around
space.
the squares?
Yeah.
All the open space, which
Okay.
is,
So all the open
Yes.
space is what's lot 1, block
Yep.
1?
and I think that Commissioner Smeezing and Dolan are correct. I think our goal is this needs to be somehow backed into a viable HOA. I think that's the only way it's gonna be successful. Trying to convey 128th is not gonna help them with the city, because this is not how that was developed. It never would have developed if that would have been the case.
Right. Is there any, well, and I guess this is another question, I guess, for the HOA, to make sure that there are guidance in there for when an HOA goes defunct?
Yeah.
There should be on the backside of that, yeah, you're gonna continue on doing this and stuff, but what happens when a situation like this happened? And it can happen anyplace.
Right.
But there should be something in place that, in the event that it does happen, what happens to those property owners?
But that is a bigger discussion at the state level and stuff, because we don't have that ability. HOAs are what, they're out there. These are the ones that go bad that we see.
Correct.
Nobody fixes that issue, because someone who's buying into an HOA doesn't have the full understanding of what really an HOA means. And you have to all be working together, because you're like your own little taxing authority.
Madam Chair, what I heard here today from 2 different parties was one wants an HOA, the other one doesn't want an HOA, but they both want to sell.
Right.
Move on. I understand that completely. But the action that we would take here today would not further that opportunity for them unless you can resolve the issue with the properties themselves, the blocks, the units you have. I don't think you can sell them the way they are now.
Right.
I don't know.
Our action would correct our role and what's in our ability.
And then they'd have to get their HOA and their situation addressed. All right, any further questions? The public hearing is closed? Okay. So what is our, yes,
Just to be clear, if the direction is, even if you don't take formal action, if the direction is to work on an HOA, if you could make it clear, though, that we have to see a viable HOA, and that is going to have to be something Diane and Kathleen work with folks on. I understand there's an attorney representing at least some or all of them, so it should be a fairly straightforward legal process, but what we've seen to date does not qualify as a viable HOA.
any further questions? So at this time, I'd be looking for a motion of direction. And what were the, Diane, what were the 1, 2, I've only got 1 and 2 on any of my
Oh, on the
sheets.
back page, there should have been 3s on there. That was the,
It's on another sheet.
yep, to convey the undivided 1/28th interest in Lot 1, Block 1,
Okay, there
Riverbend.
it is. Okay, thank you.
You are welcome.
Okay, I don't think conveying the 1/28th interest is going to help them at all at the city, and if there's already some legal action, I would say, looking then for a motion for one of those.
Madam Chair, in a short of a motion, I guess, I like the idea of going towards a viable HOA. I would like all the property owners to find a way to get on board with it and address the individual concerns of each property owner. It sounds like one of them sounded like it was maybe cost, the other one sounded like it was maybe some historic objections to how their experience with the previous one. So it didn't sound like insurmountable stuff. I would love everybody to come together because ultimately, and this is coming from someone that deals in real estate, having an HOA in place is going to be better for every homeowner in that group. It's going to be better for your property values. It's going to be better to make decisions on long-term problems that arise. It's just the better route to go, and that's why we require them when properties are developed like that. So I would like to give that at least consensus to staff to work towards a viable HOA solution. I don't know if we need a motion to approve that or not. I'm willing to make that motion if it's needed, but I don't know that there's necessarily action there.
We need to act.
I would say we can make that motion, and then it's going to fall into their hands to make it a reality.
Right.
And then staff could probably work with them through that process. We have some conferring going
Yeah, I
on.
think
Maybe
we're trying to
Kathleen has
figure,
some ideas here.
I think we have, two options for you. One is to give us direction, knowing that it's going to come back if a viable HOA is formed. The other way, if you want to get it off your plate, would be to approve the conveyance to a viable HOA, subject to the county attorney's approval. That way, your action is done. We don't need to come back to you in 30 days. So those are your two options. One is effectively table it with direction. The other one is approve the conveyance to an HOA, subject to the county attorney's approval.
You want to, anybody want to make one of those motions based on the county attorney's suggestion? I think the one where based on the county attorney's approval
That's what I was thinking.
of the HOA.
You have,
I'm sorry, I'm thinking about this, because I don't want it to feel like we're strong-arming and forcing people to go along with. I want there still to be discussion on the HOA, and if I say, if my motion is for the HOA to go forward with county staff's approval, I feel like it might remove some of that good faith discussion amongst the parties.
But I guess from my viewpoint, I'm not seeing where, if it isn't an HOA, it's not going to work on the city's part. So, and they bought into an HOA that unfortunately didn't succeed, but it doesn't mean HOAs don't succeed. When you come back together, because the rest of it probably won't sell. That'll sit there.
Yeah, no, I understand all that, Mrs. Chair. I guess I'm all right giving the motion for approval of conveyance upon a viable HOA from the county attorney.
Yeah, because I don't view this as a person's being strong-armed. You bought into an HOA, you bought into an association.
Yep.
That is,
And it wasn't necessarily the HOA in general, but the terms set forth in the HOA.
right,
So,
okay.
Okay, Madam Chair, then what if they aren't able to come to an agreement?
that's my concern.
And we've made an approval of an HOA and there's no agreement. I mean, what does the board do then? Are we out of it?
Well, we'd have to bring it back to you.
Yeah, and,
So it's,
but I think it's a majority rule situation as well, when you're talking about an HOA.
Well, part of the difficulty here is you know, we can't provide legal assistance
Right.
to that. We can only tell them what to do, but if they have an attorney, which we understand they do, I guess if there's a failure to form an HOA, then we'll have to have further discussion. Again, either way, if you give a soft direction or hard direction, it's just you get it off your plate.
I think we should give
Hopefully.
soft direction.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion. I think we need
Consensus.
consensus or direction.
I'll withdraw my motion,
To
Madam
go
Chair.
30 days, then,
Yeah, and I am not convinced this is the right, I'll be honest, I'm not convinced this is the right thing we should be doing. I would like to know what's the easiest path so these people can sell their units. What,
but there again, we have to caution ourselves what the city is going to allow them to do. That's, I think, a huge piece that we're not giving enough credence to, because it will impact them. If there is no HOA, that will impact them as to what they can continue to do going forward with that property. The city will not let them do things. It's not a development-style property in the eyes of the city. And then you have those private roads and those private utility systems and stuff. The only way it's gonna stay viable, in my opinion, with the city being supportive of it, is going to be an HOA. That's the way they approved it.
And, excuse me, County Board, these situations do get a little messy, sticky, if you want to say, and I get in on it when things tax forfeit, and then I do the discovery and the history and what happened, where was the downfall, you know, where it failed. And so then we're trying to make sure that we're getting the properties back on the tax rolls, because that is our job to do on tax forfeited parcels. So if, and the city is denying they're recommending a denial of the sale to the property owners because they're saying, due to our declarations, we need to have a homeowners association. Would the city be interested in creating this homeowners association?
We're not. You don't have authority for that.
Okay, just asking.
It's, do you want me to clarify?
Sure.
Yeah, if you have something why the city would not have the authority to do that.
So an HOA is exactly what it's titled. It's a homeowners association. So you are a homeowner as part of an association. We as the city can require one to be established, but we are not a homeowner in the association. So we would not have the authority to create one. We don't have those specific property rights. What we do have the authority of when developments like this are established, so they're not established through our normal subdivision process of here's our minimum lot width, lot size. This one was established through a conditional use permit process for a planned unit development. So that CUP, or PUD for short, goes through a recording process. It is recorded onto those properties. So that is something that does follow the properties. From our attorney or city attorney perspective, from the conditional use permit side, that follows the land in perpetuity regardless of a tax forfeiture situation, because each of those parcels within it, not just the common lot, does have that requirement on them. So if it does go through the 128th route, this subdivision through the conditional use permit is still in violation. So although the land access piece would be handled, the subdivision conditions would still be in violation. So it does not solve that from a title standpoint from our city attorney. So there is kind of that two perspectives. One is strictly land access, and the other is how the land was developed or created in the conditions on that conditional use permit. So if I can, I think that clarified your question. So yes, you could go, the county board could decide to go the 128th route, but the land would still be in violation. So that is a good catch,
We'd
Rhiannon.
be
Thank you.
creating an existing nonconformity.
Yes.
Right, we'd just be adding to the problem.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's the thing. There's an expeditious way to do this, and then there's probably the right way for long-term, and unfortunately, they don't necessarily line up in this instance, but I think if everybody's good with consensus, I'm all right going
So
forward.
we will be good with consensus of seeing this come back in possibly 30 days so they can get their HOA process set and secure and viable.
Madam
So
Chair.
we have something to convey to.
And so this doesn't drag on, I think,
Right.
if I can understand consensus of the board, you're saying 30 days, not 30, 60, 120.
30.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I believe I withdrew my motion. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
All right, thank you.
All right. I know that probably isn't the total answer you want to hear, but in 30 days, I think you got the opportunity to get this cleaned and we can get a process done to get you moving on. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, moving on, next item on our agenda is we are going to now consider the declaration of adequacy of environmental assessment. Oh, we have open forum, sorry, don't want to pass up open forum. This time we'll have open forum. Anybody wishing to speak to the board at open forum, please rise, go to the podium. State your name and address. Second call for open forum. Third and final. All right, we are done with open forum. Now we can move on to the regular agenda. Consider the declaration of adequacy of environmental assessment worksheet. This is going to be the Lynn show for a while. Good morning, Lynn.
For just a little bit. Morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. These are two of the items from the County Planning Commission meeting in October. Due to requirements from the EQB for EAW decisions having to be made within 30 days of when they come off publication, we had to put these two items on today. You'll be seeing the rest of the Planning Commission agenda items on at your next meeting. First one is Knife River Corporation, North Central. Property owners are Fred and Karen Bankston. They're requesting a decision on a mandatory EAW for mining of non-metallic mineral, which will produce construction sand and gravel on a 145-acre parcel, of which 79 acres will be mined. This is in Haven Township in the Agricultural District. Planning Commission recommended a negative declaration on the need for an EIS with the findings of fact and the resolution in your packet.
Madam Chair, I'll move the recommendation.
Motion made by Commissioner Smeezing,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Phobie. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Moving on to the next item, consider a declaration of adequacy of environmental assessment worksheet for the Tiller Corporation.
And this is the Capital Land Group. It's an LLC. They did a mandatory EAW for a facility for the extraction of mining sand, gravel, stone, and other non-metallic minerals other than peat, which will excavate 40 or more acres of land to a mean depth of 10 feet or more during its existence. The project is requesting to permit a 155-acre mine. This is just north of the Elk River landfill. This is in Livonia Township in the General Rural District within the Shoreland Overlay District of Rice Lake, which is a natural environment lake. Planning Commission recommended a negative declaration on the need for the EIS with the findings of fact and the resolution that are in your packet.
Any questions for Lynn?
I will move approval of the negative declaration.
Motion made by Commissioner Phobie,
I'll second, Madam Chair.
seconded by Commissioner Dolan. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to consider and approve the Great River Energy's Elk River Recovery Station closure certificate. Gabby, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. As indicated in the RBA, staff is seeking the board's consideration and approval of the closure certificate for Great River Energy's Elk River Energy Recovery Station. Great River Energy submitted an application for closure of the intermediate facility September 30th, 2019. Decommission of the station was completed at the end of September this year, and a final inspection was completed October 12th, 2021, where staff verified closure requirements pursuant to Section 5.8B of the Sherburne County Solid Waste Ordinance have been met. The County Attorney's Office has reviewed the closure certificate and approved of its form.
All right, any questions for Gabby? If not, I'd be looking for a motion.
I so move.
Motion made by Commissioner Brandt,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Dolan. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks for your work on that, Gabby.
Yeah, Okay, moving on to our commission, oh, we got Consider American Rescue Plan Act. I keep on wanting to jump ahead for our ARPA funds. Dan?
Good morning,
Good morning.
Commissioners. First on the agenda is the weekly or biweekly expenses. The list was included in your packet for a total of $35,756.80.
All right, if there are no questions for Dan, I'd be looking for that motion.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Dolan,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Brandt. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Next up is a request for over $50,000, and that'd be a staffing request in veterans. If you recall, during the budget workshops this year, Bruce had mentioned that there was some additional work that was brought on by the pandemic, and so I'm going to have him come up and explain the extra work that their offices had over the last couple of months, and we expect it to continue into the future.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to stand before you. As Dan had mentioned, COVID had quite an impact. What I put together were just the annual reports. The state puts out an annual report down to the county level as far as the work product that's being done, basically the dollars paid to each county in benefits, whether they be to veterans or businesses. That, along with the federal annual report that comes out, and again, all the way down to the county level as far as the benefits that go. I know I previously had mentioned the last time was in '98, but I stand corrected, it was in 2008 that we had one increase in one staff member. And at that time, it was $22 million that this office brought into the county in federal benefits and or businesses. Last year, we had actually throughout the years, but in conjunction with COVID last year and the previous year, there were various benefits, there were various federal laws that changed that opened and or enhanced new veteran benefits at the federal level and the state level. As far as the state goes, in their own annual report, they had a 528% increase in workload. We had locally here, the difference from previous year, a 200% increase in the work that we had. The federal benefits, in 10 years, this is the most recent, is just under 79 million that we bring into Sherburne County. About half goes to the veterans for their disabilities. The other half go to medical facilities throughout the county and or businesses that are paid by VA funds. And that goes directly into your tax base. So for the county. Where we were at, it actually has, COVID affected us, both positive and negative. So with this, I do not foresee any building changes or additional space requests. The room that was previously provided should be sufficient, according to myself. I don't see any issues. And again, since 2008, it's been roughly a 253 consistent percentage increase in federal work. And again, that's either through proactive work that this office does, appealing cases, which go into the legal system if the federal or state provides an incorrect answer. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work that actually goes in. A lot of people don't know what happens. Most people don't know that we bring in that much money into the county every year. So with that, that would also bring in an increase in quantity and quality of the work that we provide, with the ability to review those, to appeal those, instead of just doing the basic that we can get by or with. So.
Any questions for Bruce?
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Again,
Commissioner.
it seems like you decline it every year, your request, 2022. Why is that? Are you going to take on a piece of that position?
22.
That's the funding. We do have it built into the levy over time.
Okay.
So over the next 3 years, we'd be losing less of a percentage of ARPA funds. Right now,
We're going to use ARPA funds and
For
then
now.
decline, then we're going to use levy monies and we'll be ramped up and.
Correct. As you see, the number of people, the county's grown, so his demand for services has grown, and he is bringing that funding back into the community. So I think it's time that we start planning for our eventual.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Smeezing,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Foby. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I just want to say,
Commissioner Dolan.
Bruce cited, a bunch of impact and workload numbers and economic impact stuff, and I appreciate that. But set that aside, I think that, if there's any group that we owe
Yes.
the highest level of service, it's the group you work with and our veterans. So I appreciate you advocating for them and all the work that your department has done and the numbers track. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And having just come off a 20-year, whatever we want to call that, the numbers of veterans are not going to go down for sure. So, yes, I think it's important. Yes,
If I may
Commissioner Foby.
just add to, Bruce, you and your office, the reputation you have in central Minnesota and the state is just stellar. And I appreciate all that work and the service you provide for our veterans also.
Yes.
Thank you all, commissioners.
Yep. Totally concur with everything said. So I do have a motion on the table and a second. If there is no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you.
A nice squared away haircut helped too.
Yes, that was it.
It is National Veteran and Military Family Month.
Okay, thank you. Take care. All right, moving on to the next one, discuss the broadband program guidelines.
Yeah, as you recall, at our last workshop meeting, we discussed broadband for quite a bit. And we did take a lot of that feedback and build it into the policy that was sent to you. We did have some last minute changes that Administrator Messelt is passing out right now. Just dealing with the symmetrical language that was part of the initial paragraph in the policy. I did hand out a list of the things that were changed since the last draft, and I'm here to answer any questions. Staff is recommending a 1.5 million initial allocation to broadband for phase 1, and obviously we could see how it goes. If there's any holes in the policy, we could always have a phase 2 and dedicate additional funding to broadband as well.
Okay. Any questions for Dan? I do think we need to definitely solidify this. And so staff can start working on getting these out so we don't miss any opportunities in the building period. So they're recommending the 1.5 to start this off with.
And that's enough to carry us through initially.
Yeah, we believe so.
Won't be.
We won't fund every project, but that's okay. We'll build it and we'll try to get to those next ones in the next round.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Smeezing.
And there's a resolution in the packet, so just to
I see
clarify.
that.
Okay.
Resolution.
And that's what you're moving as the resolution.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I just had a quick question for the board. So just on continuity.
We got a motion.
Can we
of-
get a
yep.
second, please?
Oh, sorry. Yep.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Foby. Okay, Commissioner Dolan.
Continuity through this, so I just want to make sure, so in our board workshop, we talked about fiber investment only, and we kind of use fiber and broadband interchangeably in this. I just want to make sure that we're on board with either or if we're saying strictly fiber.
I would hope it'd be strictly fiber.
We did change that. Maybe I didn't put that on the bulleted change points, but it is just fiber.
Fiber, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
all right.
Okay, with that question being answered that it is strictly fiber, any other questions? Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure the motion included the 1.5.
It does.
Yes.
So we have a motion on the table for the 1.5 request and the resolution to move forward. Yes,
And then just an explanation or clarification too, the language on the non-exclusivity, which is the public purpose benefit, we'll look at the expectation that should be competitive and market rate. And whether we make it aspirational with language, we'll look at that. But we just want the board to know we understand the expectation is there's a public benefit. So we may or may not just tweak that just a touch after approval.
yeah, because I think in our workshop, we had discussed about wanting to make sure, is there any opportunity to work with to affordability?
Yep. Well, the companies have been very forthcoming to
Special
that
needs.
point, but we don't want to
Okay,
derail it any further. But I think, the board's made it clear what the expectation is, so.
yeah, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. All right, thank you, Dan,
Thanks for all your work on that,
Yep.
guys. Dan and Tim,
and your continued work.
Bruce.
This isn't the end. All right, moving on then to our next item on our agenda would be the Commissioner Correspondence. Who would like to start?
I can start, Madam Chair.
Okay, now you're doing for a double now.
Yeah, yep. So NACO Technology and Telecommunications Committee. We had County EDA, Planning Commission, had some meetings with Xcel Energy in regards to Sherco Solar, Cmrp meeting, and I want to circle back to that in just a second. Magic Fund Audit Committee meeting, that audit came out clean as it usually does. And then AMC Business Partnership Committee meeting. Circling back to CMRP, I wanted to, we had some discussions there, and I want to make sure that our board is all on the same page. So there is part of the implementation plan with CMRP involves placemaking, local placemaking grants. I had a little bit of hesitancy on my own behalf without talking to the rest of you, saying that I was in favor of making grants through that organization because it's not necessarily the original direction it went. They're small grants. It's a pool of about $25,000. The grants, what ran at $500 to $1,000 is kind of the.
Yeah, and it's more towards, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's art, it's wayfinding signs and parks and other enhancements that you can do.
Yeah, they have to be placemaking projects that have regional significance. But there's no geographic constraints on it. So I just wanted to make sure that all of us up here are all right with, the fact that we're going to be making grants to outside our jurisdiction and make sure we did that above board and it didn't come back, that we made that type of decision without putting it in front of everybody. So I wanted to have that discussion before we just tabled it a month to make the final decision at CMRP, so.
Right, and it was spoke with in support from the Wright County side. And then Commissioner Dolan just wanted to make sure that that was okay on our side.
Other than that, that is my piece.
So with a consensus of nodding of the heads, it sounds like.
So where can we find more information on the website about that?
Yeah, and Rayanne's actually the
Subcommittee.
subcommittee head for that particular effort. It just got created, so I don't know how much documentation's available on the website at this time, but we can pull the meeting notes.
But it is referred to in the CMRP 2030 framework. There is reference to placemaking in that documentation.
That's right. But as far as scoring application process.
That's still in its
yeah,
infancy.
that's, hasn't been established yet, so.
And looking for people to sit on that subcommittee doesn't necessarily have to be an elected. We're looking for people that have anything to do in the communities in regards to parks and other entities that look to these things to create that regional connection. So if you can think of anybody that you think would serve well.
And this is planning money that comes? Where's the money come from?
So all of the partners within CMRP pay annual dues, and it's out of that annual dues.
Out of the annual dues.
Yeah.
And it is 25,000.
Total.
The
Total.
Total.
Yeah, that's the requested allocation.
Total.
I guess, you know, for me, if it's, you know, 25,000, that's not a big deal in the big picture of this. But if it got to be more than that, I think that would be, start to cause some.
Heartburn?
Where we need to really get a look at it and get the whole board involved to some degree. So
Yeah,
I'm fine with where you're at there.
Yeah, I completely understand, and I just wanted to have the discussion to kind of preemptively, I know, you know, when you start making grants, no matter how small they are, they end up on the front page of the newspaper, and then you get questions. So I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page before.
Well, I appreciate you being,
Yep.
bringing it back to us and talking about it. It's good.
All right, thank you for that update.
Yep.
Barb,
Excuse me?
you're next. Are you ready?
No.
Okay, never mind then. Lisa.
Association of Townships for me.
Bridgeview Park.
Well, I was
ribbon
there too.
cutting.
Yeah.
Felix, you were there. Great River Regional Library, Substance Use Prevention Coalition, SUP. The Grams Park, we had a bench installation. If you get a chance to hike over there, it's on the highest point in the park, which is the second highest point, I think, in Sherburne County. Gives a great view of Sherburne, and the leaves were beautiful. The family that donated that land, some of their family were here, and it was a great day. TRICAP, and then on a side note, just want to keep you guys in the loop with Central Minnesota Mental Health. The profile will be coming out, and the outreach for the hiring of the new executive director. So lots of work on that.
All right, thank you. Barb?
Can I get it later, because I think I have the wrong
Okay,
information?
sure. I had the Bridgeview Park ribbon cutting ceremony, and Felix was there. We have a picture to prove it. That was really, really a beautiful day to have a ribbon cutting ceremony for that park, and the enhancements that have been done to it are just truly, just really brought it to life. And we did have the opportunity to meet Mrs. Hoagland, and her husband are the ones that donated that land, and then the county stepped in and did also some land acquisition to it and created what it is. So that was really cool. 21st had an EDA meeting. On 22nd had the CMRP placemaking subcommittee meeting, which we had just got done talking about. On the 25th, had my options board meeting. And the 26th, the CMRP Transportation Subcommittee meeting. And that's basically a subcommittee that has been formed to talk about making sure that we are staying connected with our interconnections of our roads and such. So what was that you wanted to call it, Lisa?
You're getting better, right?
I am getting better. Okay. And then so the 28th had our regular CMRP meeting, and that pretty much took care of it for me. So you want to wait till next month then? Okay,
I can give it.
that's fine.
I just want to say a couple of things, you know, being at two of our parks, major parks last week, Bridgeview and Grams Park, and if you listen to Gina's stories, you know, we don't hear a lot of those stories and just the benefits that families have experienced through COVID for sure, but also mental health support, chemical dependency. I mean, she talks about a man that I've met in Grams Park when I've been hiking there that he said it's his sobriety. Every day he shows up. And I mean, I think we talk about quantifying everything and those things. We don't have a ticket counter at every park, but you hear those stories if you hang out, and the significance they play in people's lives is pretty generous. So I appreciate this board with their support of parks.
Or like the woman that she spoke to, the mom that had the kids, and she was a single mom and looking for things to do for her kids that didn't cost a lot of money because she was on a limited income. And she found the park system to be just so totally serving that need that she would bring her children to. And she just was thankful that there was those opportunities. So when you do talk about parks and the understanding that our open spaces are truly important to make sure that we invest in and we keep those spaces available and free from development, because if all of our spaces get developed, you've got really nowhere to go for that beauty that can be of a park. So anyways, okay. All right, so that concludes our commissioner updates. And at this time then, we will be adjourning our regular board meeting, and we will reconvene in open workshop at about, where are we at? Oh my goodness. Look how far ahead we are, Felix. Did you see that?
That's good.
You want to do 10:25?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect.
So we're on a 10-minute break, and we will reconvene in the back room.